in Indiana. So if you're watching from near Paoli, if you're watching from the Salem area, please get to your basement right now. Tornado warning has just been issued as we have a little notch along that line moving rapidly off towards the east-northeast. And you see farther off to the west-southwest, additional storms firing up west of Paducah, down through the Boot Hill in Missouri, on into eastern Arkansas. That's some of the activity that will likely continue to lift off towards the east-northeast and actually move into our region as the evening hours wear on. Now, meteorologist John Belski is in with me as well. I'm going to step out of the picture. If you would, let's go over to the storm analyzer here real quick, and we can check out what's going on. Let's go to the storm analyzer. There you go. And you can see there's the tornado warning that's now in effect for eastern portions of Orange County on into western Washington County. This storm has a little bit of a notch along it as it's moving rapidly off towards the east and northeast. I'm going to zoom in here just a little bit and get a better perspective of this thing and actually put on some of the wind speeds for you and see if we can see some of the rotation. Looks like a broad shear zone to us right now. In red, those are winds that are actually blowing towards the top portion of your television set. In green, the opposite direction. It looks like we're kind of maxed out right there in between Chambersburg and also the Valine area, moving rapidly off towards the east-northeast. So it's that little couplet, if you will, velocity couplet, where we're getting some strong twisting of the winds. Could there be a brief touchdown? Absolutely. The wind field this afternoon is extremely strong, especially as you continue to go up in the atmosphere. And now some of these storms, as they reach to those twisting winds, are trying to bring them down to the ground, and that's why the tornado warning has been issued. In addition to the twisting of the winds, distinctly possible that we could see straight line winds on either side of this rotation of 50 to 60 miles per hour. So let's go ahead and let me take you over to Super Doppler radar. John, if you would, if you put a storm track on that for us. Again, it looks like the strongest rotation right now is close to Orleans, maybe just off to the east of there, and this storm moving rapidly off to the east-northeast at around 40 to 45 miles per hour. So if you're in the path of this storm, please get to your shelter area right now. Get to your basement. If you don't have a basement, get to the lowest level of your house in an interior room, and stay away from any windows if you can. And again, if you don't have a basement, you just get to that tornado warning shelter area where you feel the most comfortable. So again, tornado warning in effect for eastern portions of Orange County, for western Washington County, and this goes for the next several minutes. The actual rotating part of this cell is moving off towards the northeast quite rapidly. So if you're watching from Millersburg, if you're watching from Livonia or over towards the Bromer area, Claysville, Saltillo, anywhere from 3:34 to 3:42 Eastern time.
They have a TVS with that on the next round.
That's when this storm will be impacting you. Now you see those little red circles kind of spinning around. Looks like the precipitation, if you look real close. John, if you would, can you zoom in tight to this area for me right there? Notice how the precipitation is wrapping around like that. We're calling that a hook echo. That's when you have a lot of rain or whatever the case may be, maybe even some small hail, but basically rain that wraps around the rotating part of the cell. When that happens, it takes on a hook appearance on the radar scope. That's telling us that we have a lot of rotation throughout the depth of the storm, and in fact the radar itself is picking up that rotation as indicated by those red circles or rings rotating around. You can see that rotation immediately off to the east of Youngs Creek or just off to the west-northwest of Hardinsburg in Indiana. It is moving off towards the east-northeast. It's going to be moving into portions of Washington County here in the not-so-distant future. So please, folks, get to your basement right now if you are in the path of this storm. All right, John, if you would, let's pull out here just a little bit, and let's go ahead and track that rotating hook echo right there as it moves off towards the east-northeast. So again, if you're in the path of the storm, get to your basement right now and stay there until the danger has passed. Once again, Livonia, the Bromer area, Claysville, Saltillo, and Campbellsburg, anywhere from 336 to 342. Outside that line, we're still looking at the potential for damaging wind gusts all the way from, let's say, Jackson County and Seymour, and points southward down into Crawford County and even Perry County in Indiana. Let me take you over to the storm analyzer, and what we'll do is we'll put the precipitation back on here for you, and we'll kind of pull out, take a look at the entire line, and we'll put it in motion, and you can see how rapidly this section of the line is moving off towards the east-northeast. And right now, that rotation that is immediately off to the south of Livonia is going to be passing towards the Salem area, maybe just off to your south here in the not-so-distant future. Certainly the potential for winds of 50 to 60 miles an hour does exist with this entire line as it sweeps on through. If there is some good news to report, at this time we don't have any confirmed tornado touchdowns or funnel cloud sightings. Is that correct, John?
Yeah, no reports of any of that. This is all radar indicated, Jay. Weather Service is still reporting, though, like you've been saying, pretty good rotation in that as the whole line moves east, and then the individual cells along that kind of move toward the northeast there. So at this point, they're saying it could stay west of the Salem area, but we're watching it for you.
Okay, sounds good. So we'll keep you up to date as far as that situation goes. But on the radar scope, and more importantly, the environmental winds and just how strong the wind field is out there, it's possible one of these storms could reach up into the atmosphere, tap those winds, and bring them down to the surface in the form of a weak tornado spin-up, certainly some damaging straight-line winds as well. Let's go over to the Doppler network if we could, and you're looking at the entire viewing area now, stretching all the way from just west of Brownstown and Seymour in Jackson County down to west of Salem. There's that incredibly strong cell right there that has the rotation in it as it's passing now into Washington County. Notice how the line really breaks up, though, the farther south and southwest you go, down through Perry County, down to south of Evansville. The showers and storms that were once quite strong and quite violent, producing a lot of wind, those now seem to be weakening somewhat. No doubt still some gusty winds in those, but what we're looking and what we're thinking is that we're going to have to wait for additional storms to come out of the Missouri Boot Hill, western Kentucky, and eastern Arkansas. We're going to have to wait for those, and that will be a little bit later on this evening. Those will sweep up towards the Ohio River and also the rest of the Commonwealth, and that's when the severe threat will likely be maxed out for the remainder of the viewing area. Right now, the severe threat is alive and well, especially just off to the northwest of the metro area, as we now have some very intense storms that are clipping their way across portions of southern Indiana rapidly at speeds of around 40 to 50 miles per hour. This is the cell that we continue to track just off to the east of Paoli. It has had some rotation in it. Matter of fact, we'll put on the wind velocities here for you. And you can see just broad rotation at this point in time. Red indicating winds blowing towards the top half of your television set, green in the opposite direction. But that broad rotation right now is on the orange Washington County line, moving rapidly off towards the east and northeast. And that trend will certainly continue as the storms move across southern portions of Indiana. Matter of fact, we'll put everything in motion here for you, and you can get a good idea as to just how fast these things are moving. This was a little bit earlier, and watch as we put things in motion. You'll notice how the line of storms really came out of southern Illinois and southwestern Indiana are now rapidly racing off towards the east and northeast. John, looks like that little segment is getting just a little bit closer, kind of a bowing segment now, too.
Starting to bow out a little more there, and which would increase your potential for the 60-mile-per-hour winds with that. Still showing a lot of rotation with that. Let me go ahead and pull out on this a little bit here on the Super Doppler. Again, folks in Salem kind of on standby on this to see whether it's going to make it up in their area or stay just to the west of us. But as you said, if you look real close into the western Washington County, and when we use the Super Doppler, you can really shows that, Jay. Like you said, you can see how that's really starting to bow out now. And so, again, if you live along Salem or anywhere along or west of that highway, the corridor there that goes from Corydon to Salem up to Paoli, again, be on standby as this line of storms. It's tracking about 60 miles per hour, so it's moving pretty fast there. If anywhere west of Salem, you do need to be in your safe spot at this point. Salem, we're kind of keeping an eye on that for you. Again, this may be transitioning more into a thunderstorm wind instead of a tornado, but still enough circulation in there. And with the type of atmospheric conditions we have today, certainly a brief spin up is possible in this type of situation. Back in Illinois, Jay, this line did produce a couple of small tornadoes, or at least some funnel clouds. And again, the winds are pretty strong in this whole up and down this whole front there. But again, we're watching the Boeing segment there to see exactly where it goes. All right, and we got a time coming up on that. And there you go. So if it continues where it's going now, it will make it to the Salem area and actually beyond. So new warnings will need to be issued with that. Whether or not they're thunderstorm or tornado, we'll find out in a couple minutes.
Yeah, that's the good news too. At this point in time, we don't have any confirmed tornado touchdowns or funnel cloud sightings for that matter. But in a situation like this, when you can get a tornado spin up along a line, fast-moving line, they're usually quick hitting. They can form touchdown, and in a matter of seconds or a minute later, they can be gone. And they can kind of repeat that process as the line continues to move off to the east-northeast. So certainly potential for some damaging straight line winds, especially now showing up with what we call a bow echo appearance on the radar scope, kind of taking on a backward C. Usually the apex of that Boeing segment about right there where we have some circles now showing up, some shear markers, if you will. That's typically where the strongest wind field is located, where you could easily have winds in excess of 60 miles per hour. And you know the drift. With all the rain we've had recently, it's not going to take much to knock over some trees, even though we don't have any more leaves out there. So again, there it is, moving quickly off towards the east-northeast. New Philadelphia, folks in Bexmill, Fredericksburg, Salem, Palmyra, anywhere from 344 to 354. This storm could certainly impact your area with a lot of heavy rainfall, winds possibly in excess of 60 miles an hour, and there could be a brief tornado spin up. And right now, highest likelihood for that tornado spin up would be immediately off to the southwest of the Salem area, heading towards Salem. So again, you are underneath a tornado warning. Western one half of Washington County for the next several minutes. Stay in that tornado warning shelter area until this line has passed on through. And again, it is moving very, very quickly. Back over to the Doppler network. We have it in motion for you. You can see just how fast this thing is moving. This line segment now stretches from, let's say, the Brownstown area down into the Salem area, and then it kind of breaks apart somewhat the farther southwest you go. But you can see how quickly this is moving off towards the east-northeast. Additional tornado warnings are now coming out, as a matter of fact. Let's go back to the Doppler network, and then, John, I'll bring it over to you. Doppler network here really fast. Okay, what I'm going to do is we're going to put on the warnings here for you. New warnings coming out, tornado warnings, and they would include now the rest of Washington County on into Scott County. So if you're watching from Salem, if you're watching from Scottsburg, areas in between in Washington County, Scott County, get to your basement. Tornado warning now in effect for that same cell that's moving quickly off to the east. John?
Okay, we do have reports of some trees down in western Washington County, also in Orange County. Orleans reporting trees down, and the reports are coming in from several other parts of Orange County of several trees down along that line there. Not necessarily tornado damage, but again, the wind's been strong enough to blow down a few trees. And okay, so we're getting some other reports in about just outside our viewing area there that I was listening to. But again, a few trees down along that line. So again, as we talk about the Boeing, has not only produced a possible tornado risk, it is producing some straight line damaging winds also. And again, that's going to be moving into Salem. The fact the Weather Service now tells us this is moving at 70 miles per hour.
70 miles an hour.
And when you get a storm moving that fast, it's fairly easy to pick up some damaging winds with that.
Okay, Super Doppler radar. Let's go back to that. John was saying that this thing is moving upwards of 70 miles an hour. The actual forward movement, that means any one location is only going to have this storm in and around your area for maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes at best, and it moves on out. But it's going to be quick hitting. The wind gusts will be very strong as it moves on through, 60 to 70 miles an hour, and that threat for a tornado spin up right now, that threat is immediately off to the southwest of the Salem area, and the new track has it in Bexmill at 346, Salem 348, the Farabee area 354, Pekin 355, and South Boston around 3:56. Heading towards Scottsburg as well after the 4 o'clock hour or so. So if you are in these areas, get to your shelter region, a basement. You don't have a basement, lowest level of your house, and stay there until the storm has passed on through, as tornado warnings are now in effect. Back over to our Doppler network, and this area of the line has really lit up as far as warnings are concerned recently. We have a severe thunderstorm warning up in Jackson County for you folks in Brownstown, Crothersville, as well as Seymour, a little farther south where we have the strong wind field. We have a tornado warning that is in effect for Washington County on into a good chunk of Scott County, especially about the western 2/3 of Scott County, including you folks in Scottsburg and, of course, in the Salem area. The storm is rapidly racing off towards the east and northeast at speeds, as John just mentioned, 60 to 70 miles an hour. That line is hauling. So if you are north of town, just know north of the metro region, know that as this line approaches you, it's going to move through quick. It's going to come through with possibly damaging winds and a brief tornado spin-up. That is a possibility, especially right now in Washington County as well as Scott County. So some violent weather happening around the viewing area by late this afternoon. Here it is a couple of days before Christmas, and we're dealing with severe storms. You look farther off to the west and southwest, west of Louisville. Notice how the storms have really diminished in intensity. Matter of fact, this rain will make it to town, but it's going to come through in the form of just some windy showers, maybe a rumble of thunder. That should be just about it. We're waiting for additional storms, which look to be firing up now south of Evansville. Additional storms south of Paducah. Those are the ones that will likely race off to the northeast and head towards the metro and the rest of the Commonwealth a little bit later on this afternoon, and more like through the early evening. That's when the severe weather threat will be maximized for Louisville and points off to the south. So right now, threat is running very high immediately north of the metro region, where we do have the tornado warning that remains in effect for the next several minutes. The warnings are posted now for Washington County as well as Scott County. We also have a severe thunderstorm warning in effect for Jackson County for winds of 60 to 70 miles an hour, and that chance for a brief tornado spin-up right around the Salem area as we speak. That's where the threat is maximized right now. Ground zero, if there is going to be a weak tornado spin-up, is Salem, and that'll push towards the Scottsburg area here in the next 15 to 30 minutes. John, listening to the wire, any additional information to pass along?
Nothing new, Jay. Just that early report of some trees down in far western Washington County and in portions of Orange County. No reports of any funnel cloud sightings on them. We're monitoring the police scanners throughout Washington County. And again, those of you in Scott County, be on standby. This thing is flying. It's moving at about 70 miles per hour, as Jay had said. But it is pushing through the Salem area at this point. And in this type of situation, if you're going to have one of these funnel clouds or possible brief tornadoes, it would be right on the leading edge of that line there. So on the back edge of the line, western Washington County, you're in the clear from the tornado warning now. It's right along and ahead of the line is the areas that are under that tornado warning at this point. And this would generally be the highest threat would be draw the line as you have it there, Jay, from Salem right in towards Scottsburg, maybe a little bit south of Scottsburg toward the Vienna area. Either way, that appears to be the main highest chance area if we're going to have one of these small tornadoes with us. And further north up in Jackson County, we're seeing some rotation there. That is a severe thunderstorm warning, includes Brownstown and Seymour. And again, that no tornado has been reported with that, or no wind damage has been reported either in portions of Jackson County at this point.
Okay, and you can see on Super Doppler, John, there is the new storm track that we have updated for you. That rotation very close to Salem, maybe just south of there, rapidly racing off to the east-northeast, watching from Farabee, watching from Pekin, South Boston, New Salem, Little York. This will be on you in the next 10 minutes or so. And if we go down the list here just a little bit, if you're watching from the Scottsburg area or surrounding communities, even into northern portions of Clark County in Indiana, places like Henryville. I don't think in Henryville you have to worry about a tornado per se at this juncture, but you will have to worry about some damaging winds that could be on the order of 50 to 60 miles per hour. And that's why the storm track also includes you folks for the potential for those strong, damaging straight line winds. The tornado threat is pretty much maxed out right now on top of the Salem area. So if there is going to be a tornado, it is going to happen right in this area where you see that shear marker or that red circle spinning around. And some of the winds outside of the tornado threat could be, 60 to 70 miles per hour. So it could be a pretty nasty situation as it moves across any one area. Putting on some of the city streets here going in and out of the Salem area, and you can see State Highway 56, State Highway 60. These are really areas ground zero for potential tornado spin up. So in and around this region, that's where the tornado potential right now anyway is pretty much maxed out when we're talking about severe thunderstorms, damaging winds, and at least a tornado as well. John, what's the latest from you?
Okay, so far, no news would be good news. We've not had any reports of any damage with this as it moved through the Salem area. Still, we've been checking with a couple of the storm spotters and some of the law enforcement agencies. Again, no damage reports yet, but if you live over eastern Washington County into the Scottsburg area, don't let your guard down here, because this could spin up a tornado at any point in this type of situation. But the last damage we had, again, Jay, was about 10 to 15 miles west of Salem, a couple of trees down, and also in a few scattered spots of Orange County, some trees down. That was more straight line winds and not from. Okay, here's a update here from Brownstown, Indiana. 57 mile per hour winds as the storm just moved through there. That's outside the tornado warning, but that's Jackson County, and you are on a severe thunderstorm warning for eastern Jackson County, including the Seymour area right now. So winds near 60 miles per hour with that line, and I think you could also put easily say some 60 mile per hour gusts moving through Washington County at this point. So we're continuing to track this for you. Again, the worst of the storm now is east of Salem and just a matter of a few minutes away from the Scottsburg area. This is heading toward Leota and toward rural areas of eastern Washington County. Line of thunderstorms with winds of 60 miles per hour potential with that. And also no tornadoes have been spotted on radar, it's indicated, but no confirmations of funnel clouds or tornadoes yet with that storm over eastern Washington County. Jay?
Okay, John, thanks so very much. You are looking at the Doppler network at this point in time. The storms really rapidly racing off to the east, heading into Seymour, heading towards the Scottsburg area, soon to be heading towards Charlestown, as a matter of fact. As John has been talking about, the most dangerous part of this line will be staying immediately north of the metro region here over the next several minutes. The southern extent seems to be diminished somewhat in intensity. Something we'll be watching, though. It looks like it could redevelop as additional storms and energy move in from the west and also the southwest. There is the entire viewing area. If you're watching from E-Town, Bardstown, down to near Campbellsville, Greensburg, Columbia, you're fine for the next hour or two. Nothing much happening. Even in Louisville, severe weather threat not all that great right now, as the storms immediately west look quite weak at this point in time. Additional storms are trying to form south of Evansville. We'll watch for those because those are bubbling up in an atmosphere that has a ton of wind energy. Very possible, distinctly possible, that some of these storms could tap into that wind energy and bring them down to the surface in the form of a damaging straight line wind gust. It's something we're going to have to watch out for, maybe even a weak tornado spin up, because there's a lot of twisting and turning with the winds as you go up through the atmosphere. Here's that lead line raking its way rapidly eastward across southern portions of Indiana. Still has maybe a little bit of rotation in it. Now east and just south of Salem, pushing towards the Scottsburg vicinity. Notice how the line also is starting to break up somewhat, starting to become more cellular in nature. That could be not such a very good thing, as maybe we're looking at a transition from a line to maybe a few supercells trying to form. If there is some good news out ahead of the line in southeastern Indiana, the instability isn't the greatest, so hopefully overall the line will continue to break apart and perhaps just weaken. That's what the hope is. We'll be watching for that very closely. Having said that, don't put down your guard in eastern sections of Washington County, Scott County, where we still have the tornado warning in effect, and really the rest of the viewing area. Even though there's not much going on south of the Ohio River, it's a little bit later on this evening when we could see some of that nasty weather moving through with the potential for some severe weather, damaging winds, some hail, and even a tornado spin up. So there are the warnings for you, and right now we have the tornado warning north, another tornado warning off to the west. John?
Yeah, I was just going to mention they just issued that. It's just east of Madisonville, radar indicated, but that supercell has rapidly flared up there. Again, that's just outside our viewing area, but notice the way it's moving there. And as we start to see some of these supercells develop now in that more unstable air over western Kentucky, we'll have to watch to see as they get closer in our area if they hold together. So that's another thing that we'll be keeping an eye on outside of our area now. But again, moving toward Breckenridge County, it could be an hour and a half away if it holds together. So
it's going to be one of those situations where it could be a prolonged event really now, the way things are shaping up. First southern Indiana, and it looks like we'll get into portions of Kentucky here the rest of the late afternoon and also the early evening with potential for tornado spin-ups and a lot of damaging straight line winds as well. We're getting quite a few reports now, aren't we, John? Especially west and southwest of here.
It's really firing up. Just another tornado warning for southern Illinois. There you can see it on the map, southeast Illinois. And again, that's the area that we may have more concern. I know we've got the warning just north of us right now, and that line, again, may still produce a spin-up tornado, but additional severe weather is possible late afternoon into the evening hours with a second line that's coming in over West Kentucky and southern Illinois right now. We're watching that. Again, this storm is still a few minutes away from Scottsburg, the one we're concentrating on. It's located over rural eastern Washington County. It will approach Leota first and then Scottsburg. Just checking here, and still no reports of any damage or funnel cloud sightings. Let me check one more thing here real quick, Jay, before I send it back to you here. And let's see here. No, we just the only reports we have is that what we had earlier from that the trees down over Orange County. That's the only report we've had. No other reports of damage so far from the Salem area from that storm.
Okay, John, thanks so very much. So there is the entire line. As you can see, new severe thunderstorm warnings being issued a little bit farther off to the east, now east of Seymour, on into Jennings County for you folks in Vernon and North Vernon. Be on the lookout for some high winds as they pass in your direction, the storms that is, and you can still see the tornado warning that remains in effect for eastern Washington on into Scott County, up I-65 about 30 miles or so off to the north of the metro.
And just real quick report, Tazewell, which is in western Crawford County, had 57-mile-per-hour winds, so that thunderstorm warning for Crawford County is producing winds to about 60.
All right, and that is the line that came out of Crawford County, so that, John, that's now moving into northern Harrison, huh?
No new warnings issued for that. I see, like you said, you can see like from Palmyra down through north of Leavenworth. In fact, if you switch up our live cam here from the Ali Center, you can see the western skies looking very dark right now. And that's the big question, Jay, is, will we get that line of storms here, or will it slide just to our north and keep us in that more unstable air?
Sure, and if those storms do move into the metro here, that could cut down on some of the instability and actually lessen the metro's chances for additional severe weather a bit later on this evening. We're hoping for that. Otherwise, we'll have to be on the lookout after 6 or 7 o'clock and sweeping up into our direction. But the live tower cam looking back off to the west, showing the ominous skies, the darkening clouds, as we have a band of showers and storms sprawled out across southern Indiana on into western Kentucky, all those moving off towards the east and also the northeast.
Hey,
there
Jay.
are the latest warnings now in effect. The tornado warning north, severe thunderstorm warnings Seymour and also Vernon. John, what do you have?
Just issued that new warning for Seymour and for North Vernon for 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts. And again, that's lined up right along, coming up right on 65 there in the Seymour area, and will be in North Vernon shortly. But again, that's an increase from earlier. The original thunderstorm warning for that area was for 60-mile-per-hour winds and has now just been upgraded to 70-mile-per-hour winds. That's for eastern Jackson into the Jennings County area.
So bottom line, anywhere across eastern Jackson County, running from Crothersville up Interstate 65, Seymour, over towards North Vernon, very high winds will be moving across this area here, upwards of 70 miles an hour, easily capable of bringing down trees, snapping power poles. That's the threat we're looking at for at least the next 15 to 30 minutes across Jennings County as well as eastern Jackson County. We go a little bit farther off towards the south on into Scott County. We still have that rotating storm that could still be potentially causing some issues. The bowing part of the storm seems to be weakening just a little bit. Good news here on the radar signature, maybe a sign that the rotating part of the storm is weakening. Still, don't put down your guard. You're still underneath a tornado warning here in eastern portions of Washington County as well as Scott County for the next several minutes, as indicated in the red there, anywhere from Salem over towards the Scottsburg region. Tornado warning in effect for your location. So be on the lookout for not only 60 to 70 mile an hour winds, but that weak tornado spin up. That is certainly a possibility in your area. At this time, this is all well north of Louisville. The storms that are off to the west of town still producing some heavy downpours and perhaps some gusty winds, but these are not severe. And these, by the way, will impact the metro within the next 30 to 60 minutes. It looks like they're going to come through non-severe. We're going to have to wait and see what happens, however, with the activity a little bit farther off to the west out in western Kentucky as well as eastern Arkansas. That's the storminess that could get here and become quite the problem, especially from near town and point southward as we move a little bit deeper into the evening hours, especially from 6 to about 9 o'clock this evening. That's when the threat will likely be maxed out for the metro and points off to the south. So in the interim, the biggest threat for severe weather, this short line segment extending about 30 to 60 miles due north of the metro, up Interstate 65, a very rough go right now. And again, if you have some travel plans like many of us do, and you have to go north of town, wait this one out, let the storms get on through. They're moving very, very quickly at speeds of 60 to even 70 miles per hour. Once they move on through, conditions will improve rapidly. Still some rain to deal with, but the severe threat will be lessening for areas off to the north here in the not so distant future. So we have the tornado warning that remains in effect for areas off to the north of town, and we also have severe thunderstorm warnings being issued as well. And off to the west, we have new severe thunderstorm and tornado warnings that are being issued. Bottom line, you can see those tornado warnings south of Evansville, north of Paducah. That's the action that's going to be slipping up towards Louisville and the rest of Kentucky here a little bit later on this evening. That's why we're very concerned for more stormy and severe weather over the next 4 to 6 hours across our area. Keep in mind, we do have the tornado watch that's in effect for much of our viewing area, including Louisville, and that goes until 9 o'clock tonight. Notice new warnings are now being issued in yellow. These are actual severe thunderstorm warnings for areas immediately north of the metropolitan area of Louisville, and you can see they include places like Clark County, they include places like Floyd County, and they also include places like northern Harrison County as well. For that little area right there, those storms are now becoming severe. You can see how they're intensifying just a little bit. These individual showers and thunderstorms near Palmyra, east of Salem, closing in on Charlestown, the Scottsburg area. These will be clipping across Clark County, Floyd County, northern Harrison County, with the potential for 50 to 60 mile per hour winds. John, latest on your end?
No reports of damage. We're getting those few reports of 55 to 60 mile per hour winds with that line, Jay. And of course, no update on that tornado warning. The fact that they're going to a severe thunderstorm warning with it is good news there. So we have a lower risk of tornadoes with that in Scott County. But again, some of the far northern suburbs that you just mentioned are included in that severe thunderstorm warning for our area. So generally 50 to 60 mile per hour winds with that second thunderstorm coming through, just going to kind of clip the northwestern northern sections of the Louisville metropolitan area. Jay?
Okay, John, thanks so very much. Do appreciate it. So, you know, we just have a couple of areas of real stormy weather. We're talking dangerous weather at this point in time. One batch holding well off to the north of town by 30 to 60 miles. The other batch trying to get its act together west and southwest of Louisville, south of Evansville, out to near Paducah. Pretty concerned about those storms right now because those are moving towards the northeast quickly, and they are running into an atmosphere that is really conducive to A, tornado spin-ups or damaging straight line winds. And this could be kind of a nasty event for a few folks anyway as the evening hours wear on. Hopeful that as we move deeper into the evening, these storms will fall apart altogether. Obviously, that doesn't look like that's going to be the case. All right, so you can see zoomed in tight here in eastern portions of Washington County on into western Scott County, now arcing into far western portions of Clark County. Pretty good showers and storms now roaming the region. These things rapidly racing off to the east-northeast, 50 to 60 miles an hour. Some cases maybe arcing out at 70 miles per hour. The actual movement, the forward speed, that's telling you right there that winds could easily be that high as the storms race across any one location. And wherever you see these little backward seas showing up on the radar scope, it's telling us that we have the potential for a damaging wind gust reaching the ground, maybe even a weak tornado spin up in a few areas. That's why we're telling you folks to please take shelter in your basement, especially if you're in the tornado warning zone here in eastern portions of Washington County as well as Scott County for the next several minutes as the warning is still in effect, especially you folks in Scottsburg. The Interstate 65 corridor in Scott County and either side, east and west of there. There are the new severe thunderstorm warnings to include places like Hanover, down across much of Clark County, northern Floyd County, on into, let's say, the northeastern quarter of Harrison County. Be on the lookout for winds that could be in excess of 50 to 60 miles per hour in this region as well as those storms quickly race off towards the east and also the northeast. All right, so what we'll do here is we'll go ahead and pull out. We'll put everything in motion for you. Notice, man, this line is just moving incredibly fast across southern portions of Indiana. Move a little bit closer to the metro, and there's not a lot happening right now. Now, the skies are getting a little bit darker, as you know, but overall, the rain, the heavier storms are holding just off to the west and north at this time. You can see there's redevelopment, especially south of Evansville. That storm is producing a tornado warning at this point in time. We have additional storms producing tornado and severe thunderstorm warnings out around Paducah. That's the action that will lift up to near the Ohio River and point southward a little bit later on this evening. So a number of warnings in effect, tornado warnings, severe thunderstorm warnings, and of course the tornado watch that goes until 9 o'clock tonight. Here it is a couple of days before Christmas, and we are dealing with a severe thunderstorm and possibly a tornado outbreak for the Ohio Valley and points off to the south. A large chunk of real estate being impacted, unfortunately, by this severe weather event, going all the way north to Chicago, Indianapolis, nearing Detroit, down through our region, and points off to the south from there, almost to the Gulf Coast. That's how much real estate is being impacted by this severe weather outbreak late this afternoon into the evening. A lot of folks taking to the roads, trying to get to their holiday destinations, obviously will be slowed down by the weather that's going to be moving across the Ohio Valley. This is a fast mover, by the way. The most dangerous part of this storm will be clipping through our region here over the next several hours, and then that should be it. We're thinking after 9 or 10 o'clock tonight, we'll be pretty much out of the woods as the main energy, the main thunderstorm threat will have moved off to the east, out around Lexington and especially east of there, where it should be in a weakened state as we're losing some of the instability.
Jay, we just had a call from Scottsburg. One of our storm spotters, Larry, up there reports winds about 50 miles per hour. Also, here's a confirmed report in Seymour of winds measured at 69 miles per hour in Seymour. We have not had a chance to call up there to check on damage yet, but with winds like that, there's probably some damage and some power outages in the Seymour area. So those are the reports we're getting at this point.
John, as far as the tornado threat goes, it's now in the Scott County area. Any reports from Scott County?
No, we've had a couple of unconfirmed funnel cloud sightings on the leading edge of that line, but nothing from trained spotters reported yet. So there's still, the law enforcement in Scott County is in the field there watching for that. So unconfirmed, but again, nothing that came close to touching the ground either.
Okay, you're looking at the wind field right now, and in red are winds actually blowing towards the top portion of your television set, green in the opposite direction. Now the rotation has weakened some. You can see some brighter pinks showing up against some darker reds. That's still telling me that we do have some rotation going on, especially in the middle and upper levels of the thunderstorm, especially when the beam cuts into the storm. As you go out in space, if you will, the beam is actually kind of arcing up through the storm. So as the beam goes out, it's actually cutting through the storm at a higher elevation the farther away you get from the radar. And obviously you can see some pretty strong rotation right there close to Scottsburg. That is moving off to the northeast. If it does not produce a weak tornado spin up, it certainly still could produce a damaging straight line wind gust, 60 to maybe even 70 miles per hour or so. Certainly we're getting those types of winds the farther north you go, up into let's say places like Seymour, and now heading right towards the North Vernon area. Looks like this area of Jennings County is ground zero for those very powerful winds that could be in excess of 70 miles per hour as that line segment continues to move off to the east and northeast very rapidly at speeds of around 60 to 70 miles an hour. There it is, closing in on North Vernon as we speak. We'll go a little bit farther off to the south. There's the Boeing segment stretched from Crothersville along Interstate 65 in Scott County, arcing back into far western Clark County, just north of Louisville. That backward sea appearance right there, no doubt, still has the potential to produce some damaging winds as they roll across Scottsburg. Now just off to the east of there, we'll be pushing towards Jefferson County in Indiana here in the not so distant future. Now let's go a little bit farther off to the south. You can see additional storms trying to get their act together now just a little bit. They seem to be intensifying here, and we do have severe thunderstorm warnings in effect for Clark County, Floyd County, northern Harrison County for the next several minutes for these storms that also could be producing winds of 50 to 60 miles per hour. Right now, nothing in effect for the metro, but we'll be watching out a little bit later on for some of these storms to move into the region, and that's when we could start to see the severe weather threat really going sky high, even for Louisville and points southward as the storms come out of western Kentucky and eastern Arkansas. Additional storms on Interstate 64 west from Louisville here in eastern Crawford County along the Ohio River down to near Tell City. And you can see storms west of Hardinsburg right now, all having at least the potential to produce winds that could be 50 to 60 miles an hour. And with individual cells that pop up in some of this instability out ahead of the main line, you can get tornado spin-ups as well. That's the atmosphere we're dealing with by late this afternoon. So a very volatile situation unfolding across southern Indiana as well as Kentucky, with that potential for some big and severe storms here over the next several hours. And you can see some of these individual cells starting to go. Not a good sign, because those are what we call discrete supercells that can actually produce some tornadoes and even some large hail. And those are moving quickly off towards the east and northeast. John, this is looking a little bit uglier, if you will, off to the west where some of these cells are firing up and
just have a new tornado warning. Here we go. Jay, they just issued this, reissued that tornado warning east of the Scottsburg area, and this is going to include Madison and Hanover up through the Deputy areas. So all of central and most of western Jefferson County, Indiana, doesn't include the extreme southern part there, but anywhere east of Scottsburg, right toward the county line, they are under, this is a radar indicated tornado at this point.
Okay, and there is the warning for you graphically displayed. Madison and points off to the west down to near Scottsburg. Same cell really that has been showing signs of rotation along that Boeing segment that's moved all the way from near Paoli through Salem to near Scottsburg, and now it continues to track its way off towards the east-northeast very, very quickly at speeds of around 60 miles per hour. So if you're anywhere here in eastern Scott County, in Jefferson County, in Indiana, from near Madison and points off to the north, you now are underneath a tornado warning. Potential for a tornado spin-up is is there. It's alive and well. So get to that basement. If you don't have a basement, lowest level of your house, and put as many walls between you and the outside where there could be some flying debris. You don't have to have a tornado to get wind damage. You can get wind damage, obviously, from straight line winds, especially when they're upwards of 50, 60, and 70 miles an hour, especially when you consider how much rain we've had recently, how wet the ground is. Those trees can knock over with that type of a wind gust, even though we don't have a full canopy of leaves. So, boy, there's a lot of wind energy in the atmosphere, and some of these storms are now tapping in to some of that wind energy. Let's go back to the entire viewing area. We'll take a look at everything. So the biggest storms now north and northeast of town by anywhere from 30 to 60 miles. Additional scattered showers and rumbles of thunder still capable of producing some gusty winds immediately north of Louisville, now reaching into Clark County, Floyd County, Harrison County, where we have warnings in effect. And then we're starting to see bigger supercellular storms breaking out on a more widely scattered basis in western Kentucky, the Boot Hill, Missouri, on into western Tennessee. And those too are moving off towards the east and also the northeast. Of immediate concern, though, for the next several minutes is the tornado warning that has been issued for this little Boeing segment, this line segment, now east of Scottsburg, now east of Interstate 65 in eastern Scott County, pushing on into Jefferson County in Indiana, moving rapidly off towards the east and northeast at speeds of around, again, 60 miles per hour. So let's go ahead and put on some of the wind fields here, see what's going on. And you can certainly see some of the brighter pinks butting up against the paler, darker reds. That's telling us that we've got a lot of rotation still showing up, a very strong shear axis, if you will, that's been holding its ground. It's really been maintaining itself the past hour or so. Still looks fairly nasty here on the radar scope as it's getting ready to pass into western portions of Jefferson County. So what you want to do if you're anywhere in this region, east of Scottsburg to west of Madison, get to that tornado warning shelter area right now as you are underneath a tornado warning, certainly for the next several minutes as that strong little Boeing segment moves in your direction. Let's go ahead, and what we'll do is we'll track this for you as it rapidly races off towards the east and northeast, and this thing is hauling. We'll track the leading edge right there as it is quickly racing off towards the east. Let's do that once again if we can. All right. Again, the storms. John, what's the latest movement on these storms?
Close to 65 to 70 miles per hour. Let me double check on that real quick here, Jay. Let's see. No, it's actually slowing down just a bit now, 45 to 50 miles per hour. So it's like that whole line is slowing down, and the southern edge is moving back to the north. Kind of like you've been saying, just kind of an odd situation with this whole thing here.
And that's one of those situations we really didn't want to happen. We wanted this line to kind of maintain its integrity, move across, and be done. Unfortunately, that's not going to be happening. Nonetheless, you can see the actual storm track will take it off towards the east-northeast quickly. So if you're in the path of the storm, places like Blocher, Swanville, Hanover, Madison, China down to Manville, anywhere from 4 minutes out to as much as 30 minutes out, that rotating part of that line segment could be impacting your area. So be on the lookout for, yes, a possible tornado spin-up, but also the chances for winds that could be easily 50 to 60 miles per hour. So quite the event that is unfolding by late this afternoon across the region. All right, we'll pull back out. Yes, John?
I was just going to say further west, if you just pulled out there, that cell south of Evansville, there's a tornado warning with that. It's forecast to pass just west of Owensboro, and that's moving at about 70 miles per hour. So a very volatile situation in areas to the west of us at this point.
All right, we'll put on the warnings here so you can see that as well. John's talking about that cell right there, getting close to Owensboro, and as long as it continues to move off to the east-northeast, it's going to be moving into our viewing area here within the next 30 to 60 minutes. So this is one wave of severe weather that's going to be cruising its way towards Cincinnati, basically missing the metro area here just off to the north-northeast. It looks like another area starting to really take shape along the Ohio River and points off to the southwest. That's what's going to be impacting the metro here in the next 3 to 4 hours. By later this evening, we think just about all this activity should be pretty much out of here and conditions will be slowing down. But boy, for the next several hours, and it's really unfortunate with all the holiday shopping, the holiday plans that folks have, wanting to get out, take care of their activities, take care of their shopping, if you will, go see relatives and friends, that we have to be dealing with something like this. If there is some good news, it is a quick mover. Everything rapidly racing off towards the east-northeast, and things will be improving a little bit later on this evening. Probably viewing area wide after 9 o'clock or so. That's when we should see a brunt of the bigger storms passing off to the east and northeast and also weakening. Also, you know, with the fact that this first little line segment, John, is slowing down, could be looking at some very heavy rain as well forming from these things.
Yeah, some training effect trying to develop there in areas kind of just north and west of Louisville. And again, that's something we're going to have to watch. And, you know, and this view here, Jay, we've seen the dark sky just to the northwest of Louisville for like the last half hour, 45 minutes. And that's where there's been some fairly heavy downpours that may be trying to go over the same areas. So that's another thing we'll be watching there. But the forecast all afternoon has been saying is this first line where it came through, it would settle the atmosphere down, but along and south of that is where we still had this risk for additional severe weather. And right now, Louisville, we're staying south of that at this point, and that's why we have this tornado watch in effect until 9 o'clock.
Yeah, not good news. You can see this live look is from the Ali Center looking westbound down 64. The Ohio River into southern portions of Indiana and the darkening skies. Heavy rain shaft right there, John, no question about it. And from those heavier rain shafts, you know, with the winds that we have just a mile up in the atmosphere,
right.
60, 70 miles an hour.
Can pull it right down, yeah.
Right down. That's what we're dealing with. All right.
I've not had any reports in the last 10 minutes of any wind damage in Floyd or Clark County or Harrison from that storm. Just the reports we're getting further north up through Jennings and Jackson County. There.
And any reports coming out of Scott County or Jefferson County?
Just that report earlier, 50-mile-per-hour winds and unconfirmed funnel cloud report. And that's been it so far from Scott County. We've not heard anything from Jefferson County at this point. We're still checking on this.
Okay, very good. John, thank you so very much. All right, back to the Doppler network, back to the viewing area as a whole. Notice the line as it was very, very well defined as it was moving across southern portions of Indiana, now breaking apart somewhat. Number one, instability is a little bit less up across the Buckeye State, so it's losing some of its integrity, so to speak. But when these things tend to break apart, we can see more of a cellular nature form to some of these showers and storms, so they can then tap into some of that wind energy on their own, and they can also start to produce damaging straight line wind gusts on an isolated basis and even a tornado spin up. That seems to be the case. That seems to be what's happening here in southwestern portions of Indiana, getting close to there as that cell is moving towards the Ohio River. You can see it right there, but also into western Kentucky and western Tennessee. So yet several hours to get through of at least a pretty high likelihood for some severe weather around the region. Let me put on the warnings here for you. We're going to reset, take a look at see what's going on by late this afternoon. Here we are closing in on 4:30 Eastern time. There are the warnings that are now in effect. Severe thunderstorm warnings are in yellow, encompassing much of eastern Indiana, down into southern portions of Indiana, closer to the metro, immediately north of town. We have severe thunderstorm warnings for at least winds that could be 50 to 60 miles per hour, at least in a few isolated locations. And now those warnings include northern Harrison County, Floyd County, northern Floyd County, about the northern 2/3 of Clark County, and then points off to the northeast and near Hanover. Severe thunderstorm warnings in effect, and in red, that is a tornado warning that's in effect for eastern Scott and Jefferson County in Indiana, near Madison, really in between Madison as well as Scottsburg. It looks like that warning is just now being updated. That's why it's flashing there on your screen. It looks like the update is to take Scott County out as the threat has moved east of Interstate 65, east of Scottsburg, and now east of Scott County. That is the good news. We'll close in on Jefferson County in Indiana. We'll take a look at this threat right here. All right, there's the storm, as you can see, moving into western portions of Jefferson County in Indiana. That's the tornado warning that's in effect, Madison, and points off to the north. and still a Boeing segment alive and well, so no doubt some very strong winds associated with this storm and that potential anyway for a tornado spin up. So again, boy, by late this afternoon, the storms are really holding their own, are basically ongoing north and again off to the west southwest of Louisville. In between, including the metro, not a lot happening at this point. South of town, it's been very quiet so far this afternoon. It looks like it will remain quiet for about the next 2 hours, and then after we get towards dinner time and after that, 6, 7, 8 o'clock tonight, the remainder of the storms will be coming out of the Paducah area, out of, let's say, the Memphis area in western Tennessee, and that line segment should also track off to the east-northeast and move into our area. So we've been making phone calls to the law enforcement agencies. Meteorologist John Belski he's also been tracking the storms for us and on the horn with some of the various chat rooms, including the National Weather Service. Some of the damage reports that are coming in are very sporadic. John, is that what you would say? I mean,
yeah,
we're not getting
nothing widespread or concentrated here or there. Still no reports of anything in Scott County. The strongest rotation with the highest potential of the tornado looks to be passing just north of Madison in a few minutes. It's located kind of just northwest of Madison at this point, and is forecast maybe to pass just north of Madison, but we've had no reports. Let's see, here's again, National Weather Service here emphasizing there's been no tornado touchdowns reported. This is all these warnings so far, Jay, have been based on radar.
Okay, very good. Let's keep it that way. That would be nice to see as we move a little bit deeper into this December evening, not having any tornado reports. That would be great, and even kind of keeping the wind damage reports to a minimum as well. All right, a broken line of showers and storms kind of sprawled out now in southern portions of Indiana, arcing from west of Cincinnati to just north of Louisville, and then it really breaks apart, becomes very cellular in nature as you travel south of Evansville to east of Paducah. That's the main action in town right now, just individual cells kind of traveling along this broken band of rain and thunderstorm activity. Many of these cells producing winds of 40 to 50 miles per hour, and when you get into some of these more distinct areas like here in western Jefferson County in Indiana, where it's still taking on that backward sea appearance, that's where the winds could be a bit higher, 50, 60, 70 miles an hour, and maybe even a weak tornado spin-up. We've been tracking that little Boeing segment as it came across Paoli, as it came across Salem, as it came across Scottsburg. Tornado warnings along its path. Not necessarily for the fact that there has been a tornado on the ground chewing things up. That's not the case. But if there is going to be a tornado, typically in this situation, it's very quick hitting. I mean, it comes down, can cause some damage, and then go up in a matter of seconds or even a minute or less, and then that's it. And it can continue to do that along its path. That's why the tornado warnings have been issued, because at least the potential is there on the radar scope. So let's take a look at the wind field now with this particular cell as it's getting a little bit closer to Hanover and also closer to the Madison region. And you can still see, yes, where that brighter shade of pink is budding up to that darker shade of red. That's telling us that there's still plenty of rotation there. It's relatively broad, but there's still rotation there in that cell, and it seems like it's through the depth of the storm, and that's why these tornado warnings have been issued. And this tornado warning is still in effect for Madison and just north of Madison for the next several minutes. So folks, stay in your place of safety, stay in your tornado warning shelter area if in fact you reside in Jefferson County in Indiana, in particular Hanover, Madison, and points off to the north, because this storm is again moving rapidly off towards the east. Matter of fact, I'll put it in motion for you, and you can see it's not going to be around any one location for a long period of time. Watch how fast this thing moves once the loop gets going here. We're talking speeds that are upwards of 50, 60 miles per hour. John, on the latest report, was telling us that it may be coming down just a little bit as far as its forward movement to 40 to 50 miles per hour. But you can see it's going to be on top of you folks in Madison here very, very quickly. So be on the lookout for that. John, what's the latest on your end?
Uh, just that is all radar indicated. We've had no additional reports of any tornado touchdowns or even funnel cloud sightings, Jay, in portions of Scott or western Jefferson County. The highest potential continues to pass just north of Madison at this point. So if there's going to be one of those small, brief spin-up tornadoes that Jay's been talking about, and it's a big if, because we haven't had reports yet, but if we get it, looks like it'll be just north of Madison within the next 5 minutes or so. We're right there now, and no other reports of wind damage with these other thunderstorm warnings that were over the northern suburbs here over the past hour, Jay.
I'll tell you what, these storms are traveling so fast. Now in central portions of Jefferson County in Indiana, they're moving so fast that the tornado threat, at least from this cell, will be out of our viewing area within the next 10 to 15 minutes. It'll be moving into Switzerland County in Indiana and then up towards, let's say, the Cincinnati region here over the next 30 minutes. So that's how fast these things are moving. So that threat will have ended. Then we're going to be looking at additional severe weather threats coming out of the cells from areas west of here, Paducah down to near the Memphis region a little bit later on. So still plenty of nasty weather to talk about. Weather that's going to likely keep us on the air for quite some time as we move deeper into the evening from a cell that's holding here just off to the west of Owensboro and other line segments trying to form just east of Paducah. These no doubt are also producing at least the potential for some severe weather, including tornadoes and wind gusts on the order of 60 to 70 miles an hour, everything moving off towards the east-northeast very, very quickly. John was talking about a training effect that's trying to form across the region. What we mean by that is if you think about a train that goes over the same set of tracks the train cars do, when we talk about a training effect in weather, it seems like thunderstorms seem to go over the same areas for a period of time. If that tends to form, and it looks like that may be the case in some of these regions west of Louisville, we could be looking at some extremely heavy rainfall totals and maybe even some flash flooding. That threat is there. It's a little bit lower than the wind damage threat and even isolated tornado threat, but it is still there, and it's something we will be watching for as the late afternoon and evening hours unfold. So there goes the first line coming out of southwestern Indiana, breaking apart somewhat, looks to be weakening as it travels up towards Dayton, getting a little bit closer to Cincinnati. That's good news. Still some scattered showers, a few thunderstorms, and some locally heavy rainfall closing in on Louisville, but especially westbound Interstate 64. And then bigger cells, cellular type of storms blossoming east of Evansville and also off to the west of Paducah, where the wind damage threat and even the tornado threat is running pretty high from those as well. We'll go ahead and stop the radar here, and we'll put on the warnings, kind of reset the afternoon, if you will, for you as far as the severe threat goes, and take a look at what's going on as of right now, 4:33 in the afternoon. All right, you can see two areas of severe weather ongoing off to the northeast of Louisville and off to the west and southwest. That's where the primary threats are now located. Tornado warnings here in Jefferson County in Indiana, and a tornado warning that is being issued for Daviess County, western Daviess County of Kentucky, immediately west of Owensboro for the next several minutes, and severe thunderstorm warnings out near Paducah on into western portions of Kentucky, closing in on the Henderson region as well. All this area certainly primed for a severe thunderstorm outbreak, including some damaging straight line winds and even isolated tornadoes for the next several hours. John, it looks like the metro region, though, is in a lull as far as the threat goes. It looks like for the next hour or so, yeah, the potential for some heavy downpours, some gusty winds coming out of these heavier showers, but as far as a big-time tornado outbreak for Louisville or whatever, not just yet.
Yeah, and we just heard from the EMA up in Washington County, Indiana, Jay. Some cluster of trees down on the west side of town on 56 near the airport. Also, additional trees were blown down as it moved through on the east side of Salem also. Don't have a count on how many trees, but they say a number of trees were down with that line. So that appears to be the greatest concentration of any damage in our area. And still no word if that was a tornado or if it was high winds, but we are getting damage reports from the Salem area now.
And that was certainly where that tornado warning was issued, right?
So
That
could
little
have been, and could have been one of those small spin-ups that you had mentioned. Could have gone right through Salem there.
All right, very good. For the next, let's say, 1 to 2 hours, at least for Louisville, looking at no doubt scattered showers, a few thunderstorms, gusty winds.
Maybe gusts to 50 or so, but sub-severe for now.
For now. Got to wait to see what happens as we go a little bit farther and deeper into the evening. All right, let's go back to the Doppler network and see what's going on here. All right, keep in mind the tornado watch. That means conditions are favorable for severe storms, including tornado spin-ups. The watch goes until 9 o'clock tonight Eastern time. That includes the metro. It includes a good chunk of the viewing area. It does not include our far southeastern communities, but there's a fairly good chance that additional watches will be issued as the evening hours unfold. So we have the watch in effect, which means the conditions are there. Showers and storms are now starting to form. We have warnings northeast of Louisville. We have warnings off to the west and southwest. 2 tornado warnings in effect, and you can see warnings are now being issued a little bit farther off to the northeast on into Spencer County in Indiana. A new tornado warning issued for that storm that's passing very close to Owensboro. That seems to be supercellular in nature. Going to have to see what's going on there. And a tornado warning that remains in effect from near Madison, but especially just north for a Boeing segment that's been alive and well ever since it came out of southwestern Indiana. I mean, it's tracked just like that and will continue to move up towards the southern suburbs of Cincinnati here over the next 30 to 60 minutes. At least the first wave of severe weather will soon be exiting our region, and then we'll be waiting for this next batch to be moving in for the rest of the late afternoon and also the early evening. All right, let me close in on the metro area here and show you what's going on close to home around Louisville. If you have some shopping to do, you want to get out to the grocery store, whatever the case may be here over the next few minutes, you're going to be dealing with some scattered showers developing and moving in from the west and also the southwest. These are not severe, as John mentioned. They are the winds are sub-severe. We're talking 40, maybe 50 miles per hour gusts and a few of these heavier downpours. But again, this is not the main action. We're hoping that we can get this through here and it really, really stabilizes things for Louisville and everything else decides to go south. But we'll have to wait and see how things unfold. Certainly the potential is still there for widespread severe thunderstorms from Louisville and points southward a little bit later on this evening. Right now, heavy downpours, Charlestown, over towards the northern portions of Floyd County, just south of Palmyra, right around the Corydon area. It's kind of a rough go if you're traveling 64 west right now, or you have friends and family coming to your home on 64 traveling eastbound. It is a rough go across southern portions of Indiana with that heavier rain. No doubt ponding will be also a problem with the heavy downpours. Individual showers trying to form around Louisville. Of course, those are not severe. We go a little bit farther off towards the west and also the southwest. You can see some pretty heavy rain there, western portions of Meade County, out to near Tell City, sub-severe, but we are watching the bigger storms that are coming out of western portions of Kentucky, pushing up towards Spencer County, Indiana. In particular, that cell right there, that thing is tornadic right now and is producing a tornado warning and seems to have a little bit of a hook echo on it right there. As you can see, that little pendant kind of hanging down, indicating we have strong inflow, strong rotation. Looks like it's going to be passing immediately north of Owensboro, passing north of the Ohio River on into Spencer County in Indiana. And that could impact our viewing area here in the next 30 minutes or so. So we'll be watching out for that. Hopefully it will weaken before it gets here, but at this point in time, all indications are pointing towards the fact we're still going to be dealing with the threat for severe weather for about the next 3, 4, and even 5 hours. So a little bit of a break in the action as far as the severe threat goes. Plenty of dark skies. Let me show you the live camera, or live view from, this is from the Ali Center looking westbound. Guys, if you would, up in the booth, take that picture for me if you would. There you go. You can see the darkening skies. Now, this is the area where the storms seem to be training over the same locations, where you see those darkening skies. Not too far away. We're talking Harrison County, Floyd County, northern Floyd County into Clark County, and very heavy downpours, some gusty winds on occasion in these regions. That whole area is trying to sink its way east and southeast. Sub-severe right now, but we'll have to wait and see what happens here over the next hour or two. And see what happens over the next hour or two as far as what happens with severe thunderstorm activity if things start to increase from Louisville and points off to the south. John, what do you got?
Yeah, listen, if we can pop up Max 2 there. I've got a shot in from Seymour. Aaron sent this in, fence blowing down there. And again, we did have confirmed winds of near 70 miles per hour in the Seymour area. And also, let me switch this over to show you the temperatures right now, because where it's north of the line of thunderstorms, we have been seeing temperatures dip. Look at Mitchell, 55 degrees right now. It's still 70 here in Louisville. And in Louisville, we've been south of those thunderstorms, the air becoming increasingly unstable. But it's very interesting watching this line of storms form because, again, Jay, right along that line and south of it, this increasing risk for severe weather as we head into the early evening hours. Again, kind of a break now. The tornado warning expiring in north of Madison now as that storm is kind of weakening quite a bit. And we're kind of just in a lull, like you say, and then we're waiting for the next batch coming out from western Kentucky, where there's been several reports of possible tornadoes there.
Okay, let me show you Super Doppler radar here. We've got that back up and running, and you can see this is on the live scan. And a number of showers and storms running from Madison down into Clark County, on into Floyd County, Harrison County, producing extremely heavy rainfall, no question about it, and likely some ponding on the roadways. But these right now are sub-severe, especially right around the Louisville area. And it looks like that trend may continue anyway, the sub-severe trend for Louisville for the next hour or two at least, right through dinner time and shortly thereafter. But we still have the severe weather threat alive and well in the viewing area northeast of the metro near Madison and Jefferson County, where a tornado warning remains in effect. And also off to the west and southwest now, things are gearing up once again. If you look real close, we've got little circles, little shear markers spinning around close to Owensboro. That storm has been a long-lived supercell. It's been spinning, rotating, producing at least the threat for tornadoes, some large hail and damaging winds, and that is getting closer and closer to the viewing area as we speak. Let me take you back to the Doppler network here now, and we'll put on the warning mode here for you, show you what's going on all across the viewing area. And for folks who were expecting to watch The Young and the Restless, hey, really quick, if you would set your DVRs for 1:30 later on tonight, early tomorrow morning. We're going to run the show at that time. If you would tape it, record it, you can get all caught up as far as what's going on. So again, we'll be running Y&R, today's episode, later tonight, early tomorrow morning, if you will, about 1:30 in the morning. So set your DVRs for that time. All right, severe thunderstorm and tornado warning still in effect, southeastern portions of Indiana. In our viewing area, the tornado warning still alive and well for Jefferson County, Indiana, Madison, and points off to the north. And new tornado warnings now being issued just west of our viewing area. We're talking Spencer County, Indiana, and down into western Kentucky. New severe thunderstorm warnings east of Paducah as everything pushes off towards the east and northeast. Again, in Louisville, we'll be looking at scattered showers, a few thunderstorms for the next 1 to 2 hours, most of which will likely be below the severe limits. Good news, if you have to make that trip to the grocery store, just grab the umbrella, expect gusty winds, but not expecting widespread severe storms in Louisville for the next hour or so. A little bit later on this evening, we're talking after 6 o'clock, some of this activity will likely lift up into the metro and areas south of town, E-Town, Bardstown, Hardinsburg, down to Hodgenville, and points off to the east and southeast a little bit later on tonight after dark. And that is of concern too. You move into the dark hours in a situation like this, you can't see. That in itself can be kind of a danger when we're talking about fast-moving storms that at least have the potential to produce severe weather, damaging winds, and even isolated tornadoes. So if your area goes underneath a tornado warning, please, in this situation, take it seriously. Get to that basement. If you don't have a basement, lowest level of your house. Stay there, put as many walls between you and the outside, of course, to help stop any and all flying debris that could be occurring, and stay there until the danger is past. And by the way, once a storm approaches your area, it's not going to be around long. It'll be through within 15 minutes or so. John, what do you have?
Jay, we've been making some calls. We have some damage reports here. First of all, in Jackson County, several reports of trees down throughout the county. Also, there was some flash flooding as that line moved through. No reports of injuries there. In Jennings County, no reports of injuries. We do have reports of trees down. All roads are open, though, in Jennings County at this point. And I don't have a location on this, but we do have a tree down on a house in Jennings County. Now, we also had a report from Salem area. If you're going up Highway 60, right before you get into Salem is the Southway Villa Mobile Home Park. There is a tree on a mobile home there. That's the Subway Villa Mobile Home Park, tree on a trailer. No reports of injuries, though, from what we've determined so far. And as we mentioned before, also out around the airport on the west side of Salem, a number of trees down there. And we also had some calls on the east side of Salem. There are some trees down there. These storms have weakened locally. Just had a report from Owensboro. They've had a wall cloud in Owensboro with funnel cloud sighted. No touchdown in Owensboro, but there is a funnel cloud in the city of Owensboro at this time. Let me do a quick check on this here.
John, there's an update for you.
Okay.
There's a tornado on the ground and on that cell in Rockport right now.
Now that's across the river now.
Yes,
is it, or is it still in?
It is in Indiana, Rockport, Indiana. Tornado is on the ground.
Okay, and again, that's just outside our viewing area. But if you draw a line with that, Jay, that is moving up toward Crawford County. If that supercell can hold together, because it is moving into an area that's had a lot of rain and some cooler temperatures. So we're not sure if it's going to be able to support that or not. All these storms, like Floyd County, New Albany, north side of Clarksville, getting some very heavy rains now. But this activity is not severe in our local area.
Yeah. John, the storm we were talking about right there, there it is, Rockport.
Okay.
If you would, go ahead and take that full screen real quick for us. This is the analyzer, and you can see the warning drawn on there. That's telling us that kind of a warning, that line, if you will, telling us that we have a tornado on the ground. And in fact, we do, near Rockport, racing off to the northeast at speeds of around 60 miles per hour. As John mentioned, that's going to carry it. If it holds together, it's going to carry it towards places like Crawford County here over the next 30 minutes or so. So again, there it is right there. There's Rockport. It will continue to move off towards the northeast. Could be impacting places like Perry County and even Crawford County here in the not so distant future. If there's some good news to report with this particular cell, notice all the rain out ahead of it. That rain is cooling the atmosphere. It's stabilizing it somewhat. So we're hoping that as that cell continues to move up into that rain-cooled air, if you will, it'll ingest some of that and cut off some of the instability, and hopefully the storm will weaken and the tornado threat will drop out altogether. But at this point in time, a tornado threat alive and well in Rockport, where we in fact have one on the ground. An additional line segment, John, farther off to the west. Matter of fact, if you go back to the Doppler network right now, look at that line segment that's holding off to the south and southwest of Evansville. Let me show you that, the Doppler network. Let's put that online if we could. Do we have that? All right.
Yeah.
There it is. You can see
Jay,
it.
we've had 75-mile-per-hour winds reported with that line confirmed.
Boy, and that's the line segment that's going to be racing off to the east-northeast. That's the one that we've been concerned about developing, possibly impacting our region a bit later on this evening. Well, there it is, now really taking shape west of Evansville, down into the Paducah area. It will continue to track its way rapidly off towards the east-northeast and likely impact areas near 64 and especially south over the next several hours. And that will be the main severe weather threat for Louisville, E-Town, over towards Hardinsburg, for Litchfield, and the rest of our Kentucky communities as well as we move deeper into this Wednesday evening. You look farther off to the northeast, storms and showers are still widespread here in southern portions of Indiana, although the severe threat seems to be leaving our viewing area and now pushing up towards Cincinnati at this point in time. So John's been tracking severe weather. He's been looking at all the chat rooms, and right now sporadic reports of damage, they're out there.
Yeah, mostly trees in our area. You know, it's a bit more severe up in Indianapolis. We have several reports of roofs off buildings. Interstate 69 in Indy is closed right now, semi blown over there. We had the same situation in Terre Haute. A semi was blown over that line of storms. The damage has not been quite that extensive in southern Indiana. We did a report in the Orleans area of a carport kind of lifted off its foundation there. So mostly just some trees down, and as I mentioned a few minutes ago, a tree down on a mobile home in Salem, and a tree down on a house outside of North Vernon. That's all southern Indiana reports, and that's all we've had so far here, Jay. And again, looking at those storms locally in Floyd and Clark may be producing a stray wind gust of 45 or 50, but no warnings in our local area at this point.
Okay, very good. John, thanks so very much. Let's go back to the Doppler network now and take a look at the storms around the viewing area. Let's go to the network if we have that. We had it just before. Let's go back to it. The Doppler network, guys. Max 1, there you go. Thank you. As you can see, there's the first batch of storms now in Madison, just off to the east of there, down through portions of the metro, at least the northern suburbs, through Clark County, Clarksville, Jeffersonville, and points off to the north from there. And you can see additional storms south of 64, that one now moving into Spencer County. That has the tornado on the ground. An additional tornado warning has just been issued for areas immediately west of our viewing area. Perry County now under the gun for a tornado warning. Would include you folks if you're watching from Leopold. So if you're in and around Leopold, surrounding communities, get to your basement right now. A tornado warning has been issued for you. And that other line segment, as John was mentioning, coming out of the Paducah area, racing towards Evansville, at least has the potential to produce winds of 70 miles per hour. We'll put everything in motion for you. In addition to the severe weather threat, we're looking at least the chance for some very locally heavy rainfall that could cause ponding on the roadways. A lot of folks out there doing their travels. They're shopping, heading to the grocery store, so be on the lookout for that. In and around Louisville right now, no severe weather, that's the good news, but the showers are really starting to pick up near 64 and especially off to the north and west. And the bigger storms out near Evansville and rapidly racing off to the east. And that's it right there. That's going to be the main show. Once we clear that line, that will be it. And it looks like that'll happen throughout the early evening. And still expecting by 9, 10 o'clock tonight, the entire viewing area will be out of the woods. The threat will be over, pushing off to the east as the storms will be weakening across a good chunk of the viewing area. All right, let me stop this, and what we'll do is we'll zoom in on the metro, get a good idea as to what's happening in and around your area if you're right here in the metro region. And again, just a scattering of showers. Some heavier downpours certainly near Corydon along 64 up into Clark County, especially up near Charlestown, kind of arcing into Oldham County as well, immediately west of LaGrange. These are not severe, but with the wind energy in place, you know, just off the ground, some of the winds are gusting anywhere from 50 to 60 miles per hour. Very possible some of these showers could tap into some of that wind energy, bring them down towards the ground, the winds anyway, and you could see a wind gust of 50 miles an hour like that, even from these locally heavy rain showers. And the rain's really picking up, becoming quite heavy now near Corydon, down to just north of Brandenburg, and everything pushing off towards the east and northeast rapidly at speeds of 40 to as much as 60 miles per hour, at least some of those individual thunderstorms, like we're seeing here in Spencer County and like we're seeing near Evansville, down into areas of western Kentucky, at least east of the Paducah area. Tornado watches also remain in effect until 9 o'clock tonight for just about all of the viewing area. We're thinking after 9 o'clock or so, the severe weather threat will be dropping off the table as this entire cold front and storm system continues to pivot through the Ohio Valley, moves off to the east, northeast, and everything will be weakening. Okay, we've been on the air for the better part now of the last hour, hour and a half. We realize that if you're tuning in, we're wanting to see Young and the Restless. Unfortunately, did not get to see that program. We have you covered. We're going to air it late tonight, early tomorrow morning, if you will, around 1:30, 1:33, I think it is to be exact, in the morning. So set your DVRs if you can do so, record it, get caught up on all the latest goings on with YNR. And again, we'll be doing that very late tonight, early tomorrow morning, 1:33. John, what do you have?
Just still getting a few calls in from the Salem area. Trees down here and there as that line moved through, Jay. But this is from that storm a while back. We've had no new reports as far as anything happening, within the last 10 or 15 minutes as the thunderstorm activity is sub-severe, below severe levels at this point. Also, the tornado that was on the ground at Rockport near Owensboro, that has weakened now. That whole storm has weakened. And again, as that's moving toward Perry County, but again, that's weakening. And we talked about it would be moving into that area where it had the rain-cooled air. And so there was a possibility that would happen, and that has happened. But we have not, just not getting that rain-cooled air here in Louisville yet. So that's why we have to continue to watch those storms early this evening as that line approaches.
Absolutely. Very strong storm system for the time of year, spinning up across the Ohio Valley. Not only the Ohio Valley, boy, you'd be amazed. The entire areas anywhere from Chicago, near Detroit, especially south of there, Indianapolis, to Cincinnati, down through Louisville, to Nashville, to Memphis, down around the Gulf Coast. All of these regions have the possibility of severe weather just a couple of days here before Christmas because of this spring-like system that's churning across the region. As you know, it's been unseasonably warm across a good chunk of the nation so far this fall and winter season. So even the Gulf of Mexico states and the Gulf of Mexico itself has not cooled off. So the warm waters and all that warm air is able to come northward, flood northward, and we can have severe weather outbreaks as we get these bigger systems move across the region. That's when you have that lack of winter weather, and that's what's going on. John?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention one thing here, Jay, and this is being mentioned all around the country right now. Twitter's going nuts. This warning out to the west of us includes Santa Claus, Indiana. So, and the good news is the tornado was on the ground. It's lifted up now, so it's weakened a bit. But how odd is that on December 23rd that you have a tornado warning for Santa Claus? I don't remember hearing that before.
Unbelievable, yeah. Well, the good news, as John mentioned, that storm is moving into the rain-cooled air. That's the storm we're watching. It's getting ready to move into our viewing area, but fortunately it is weakening. It's kind of ingesting a lot of that rain-cooled air that's all around it. So as a result, the rotation, the instability is coming down. So as a result, the storm is also showing signs of really starting to tear apart, if you will, and weaken. Then it's this next segment lining up off to the west of the viewing area near Evansville, down to east of Paducah. That is the line segment, and it continues farther south. I mean, we're talking into western Tennessee, where there has been a lot of instability, and there is actually a tornado watch where they're on the lookout for these isolated huge supercellular storms that could blossom up and cause some long track tornadoes down that way. We don't think that's going to happen around here. We're going to be dealing with these line segments, lines that come on through very quickly and produce those damaging straight line winds for 5, 10, 15 minutes, maybe a weak tornado spin up wherever you can get a little bit of rotation along the line, and then that should be just about it. And this is the next bout we're watching. One bout has already moved on through, mainly north of Louisville, across southern portions of Indiana, from Paoli to Salem to Scottsburg to north of Madison. Sporadic reports of wind damage, trees knocked over, power outages from that Boeing segment where tornado warnings were issued. That line segment has cleared the viewing area. It is weakening, now passing towards Cincinnati. We still have heavy showers very close to Louisville, but especially just north and west. And now we're watching the next batch of severe weather starting to crank up in southwestern Indiana, especially western Kentucky, western Tennessee. And that's the activity that will be moving off towards the east-northeast throughout the course of the next 2, 3, and 4 hours. And the threat for severe weather at that time will come from that line right there. Once that line clears, that's it. We'll still be dealing with occasional showers behind it, but the severe weather threat will be dropping off the table, as that will likely be it for this December evening. Until that happens, though, the threat is alive and well, especially for areas near Louisville and points off to the south. So at this time, no warnings in effect, but we still have the tornado watch that goes until 9 o'clock tonight. And Rick, we're still watching that line segment near Evansville. That's the one, as it approaches, that could cause additional problems for the viewing area, including maybe even the metro a little bit later on. So we'll keep you apprised of that. Rick, let's send it back to you. Been active.
This is WLKY Louisville. Live, local, late breaking. Your complete news coverage for Greater Louisville starts right now.
All right, thank you, Jay, and good crazy weather here right before Christmas Eve. Jay has been tracking the storms for us, and let's go to him once again for what is the latest right now. Hey, Jay.
All right, hey, John, or Rick, I'm sorry. Yeah, John and I have been in here for the better part of the afternoon. Suzanne, prior to that, we've been watching this event unfold. Actually really showed its hand, if you will, the past couple, 3 days, and unfortunately has come to fruition on this December afternoon. And you can see right now, no severe weather going on across the viewing area. The warnings have been discontinued or canceled, at least for our viewing area. We did have tornado warnings just north of town, Paoli, Salem, Scottsburg, up to near Madison, just north of there, and sporadic wind damage reports along that path where the warning was issued. So either we had a weak tornado touch down in a few spots, didn't have any confirmations of that occurring, or we just had some damaging straight line winds. But wind damage is wind damage, as you know. Well, that first segment is through, out of the viewing area. Now we're watching that band right there, Evansville to east of Paducah, and actually it's out of the scope of the radar here, but it extends farther off to the south into western Tennessee, even down into the Gulf coastal states. That squall line, if you will continue to rapidly race off to the northeast. That's the one that will cause likely additional problems here over the next couple, 3 hours until 10 o'clock tonight for the viewing area, especially from Louisville, Interstate 64, and points off to the south. So still the threat for damaging straight line winds, maybe a few isolated tornadoes coming in from this line as the evening hours unfold. In Louisville, that should be anywhere 7 to 8 o'clock, a little bit earlier off to the west, a little bit later off towards the east. Once that line clears, Rick, we think the conditions will be improving rapidly, the severe threat will drop, and conditions will really quiet down by tomorrow for your Christmas Eve. So at this time, yes, scattered showers, a few storms, but no warnings in the viewing area, although the tornado watch remains until 9 o'clock tonight. Let's send it back to you.
All right, Jay, I guess the price we pay for having this nice weather in December. On a programming note, Young and the Restless can be seen tonight at 1:30 on WLKY. On to the news now. 3 families are saying goodbye to their